Hey YouTube. Okay, I am back. This is technically, I guess it's part 2, but it's the third video I filmed today. But it is part 2 of my surgery experience. So, in my last video, I went over my pre-op experience. So this video is going to be about my surgery day, or my surgery experience, I guess. So some stats in case you didn't watch my last video. I had surgery. I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy, VSG, on January 9th of this year at Overlake Hospital in Bellevue, Washington with Dr. Gupta. My highest weight was 301 pounds. My weight on surgery day was 276 pounds. And excuse me if I keep looking off to the side, but my notes are over here. Not that I should need notes to know how much I weighed on. Anyways, we're not going to go there. So the last time I weighed myself was on Sunday, and I was 253.9 pounds. So that means that since surgery, I have lost 22.1 pounds, and in total, I have lost 47.1 pounds. So now that all the good stuff is out of the way, we're going to jump right into surgery day. So, my original surgery date was supposed to be November 19th, 2018. I got sick 2 days before. This is all in my previous video. You could go back and watch that. I ended up having to reschedule. That surgery was scheduled for 6 in the morning. This time I got a little luckier because I was not scheduled to be into surgery until 1 o'clock in the evening. I'm a little obsessive compulsive, so I still showed up pretty early. And I was pretty much freaking out the whole time. So my sister-in-law was the one who went with me. She drove up there because my anxiety would not let me drive. My entire body was shaking, uncontrollably shaking. If you did not know me and you did not know that I was not prone to seizures, you probably would have swore that I was having a seizure. My body was uncontrollably shaking. My body temperature dropped. Pretty much my anxiety was having a whole lot of weird effects on my body. So we were sitting in the waiting room for, I want to say about an hour before the nurse not the nurse, the concierge, who comes down and shows you to your room, I guess. He came down and escorted us to our rooms, to our room. And I sat in the room for about, I want to say about 30 minutes before the nurse actually came in and spoke to me. So she came in and she did all of her nursely duty. She had me change into a nightgown, and she gave me the little hospital socks to wear. And I don't know if this is across the board, like normal for them to do, or if it was just me because my body temperature dropped so significantly. But she wrapped me in a heating blanket to warm me up. And she did say that was pretty common because the operating room, I guess, gets pretty cold. And so, and while you're in surgery, you're losing blood. And so your body temperature tends to drop. And so they want to get you warm beforehand. So if your body temperature does drop, it does not become a dangerous situation. Like, it won't drop too low. She said in my case, she needed to discuss with the operating nurse if they were even willing to go through with the surgery, or if they were going to make me wait a couple more hours to heat up because my body temperature did drop. Let's see. I'm trying to go in sequence, so that's why I'm thinking about stuff before I say it. So she came in, she took blood. I had to pee in a cup. She analyzed my pee and everything, and I guess everything came back fine. My iron was a little low, but nothing to be too concerned about. They did have a transfusion expert on site. So, I mean, if that did become a problem during surgery, they had somebody there to handle that. Thank God for my sister-in-law. She was kind of my voice throughout all of this because my anxiety was so bad I could barely speak. I swear the nurse was asking me questions, and all that was coming out of my mouth was like gibberish. Mind you, I had never had surgery before. This was my first ever surgery. The closest I had ever come to surgery before this was maybe having a tooth pulled. And so I've never had anything removed, anything replaced, anything repaired. So this was kind of a big deal for me. And so I was extremely nervous. And so my sister-in-law kind of told I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So the nurse comes in, she tells me everything's fine, that the doctor will be in to talk to me, and I believe the day is a little bit of a blur, but I believe he was only in my room for about 3 minutes at most. I literally saw his face and saw how good looking he was. And so I remember telling my sister-in-law, I wish my eyes could be open for surgery just so I could gaze at him the whole time. He's a pretty good looking guy. And so he comes in, and he was in there for not long at all, and he pretty much told me, okay, well, the next person you're going to see is the anesthesiologist, so you need to let her know anything that you think she should know. If you don't take very well to anesthesia, if you tend to wake up, if you have a hard time waking up, that's my problem. It's not a hard time like it's life-threatening or like anything is bad happening to me. I really knock out under anesthesia. Even when I'm having teeth pulled, if I have to go under, it is very hard to wake me back up. I'm just sleep. You know what I mean? And so I did let her know that, and then my sister-in-law kind of told her that, is there anything you can give her for before you even do the anesthesia on her? Because if you can't tell, she is shaking like crazy. Like, she has been shaking like that for practically since we walked in the front door of the hospital. Maybe even since we got out of the car in the parking garage. And of course, the anesthesiologist was very nice about it, and she was like, of course, we can give her. She told me she's going to give me the good stuff. And so they put the IV in my arm, and she gave me some good stuff because I don't remember being rolled into the operating room. I don't remember being put under anesthesia. I don't remember anything past being in my room before they rolled me into the operating room. I remember her bending down into my ear saying, I'm going to be right here and I will see you when you wake up. And that was about it. So whatever she gave me for anxiety beforehand must have put me out before I even went under anesthesia. Or I was just feeling so good at that moment. I just don't remember. Everything else is blank after that. So, waking up. Like I said, it's pretty hard to wake me up from anesthesia. So, I wasn't quite sure how long I had been in the recovery room. My sister-in-law says it was for quite a while. But I'm trying to remember exactly when I woke up. It's so blurry. I know that I woke up feeling no pain whatsoever. I felt extremely dry, like my lips felt extremely dry. And my mouth was really dry, and I remember wanting something to drink and obviously not being able to have anything at that point. Yeah, and I remember them rolling me into my actual room and giving me the nurse's button and stuff. I remember them trying to get me to go pee, which did not happen until the morning after, mind you. And then, of course, I remember the annoying beeps of all the machines going off and somebody in my room at all times. And I remember hearing people talking, but it sounded like they were really far away. And it turns out they were right there in the room. It was my sister-in-law talking to the nurses about, what to expect when I wake up and when they expect me to be released and all of that good stuff. And so I remember waking up fully. I remember laying there for a while, and my sister-in-law had to come back home because I live in Tacoma, and Bellevue is about, on a good traffic day, Bellevue is about an hour drive away. And so she needed to get home. Obviously, my niece and everything was at home, and my brother was at home, so she needed to get back to her husband and her daughter. And so I told her I'd be fine. I would call somebody when I was ready to be picked up. I remember getting in trouble. I got in trouble in the hospital because I was up trying to walk around by myself, and they were like, you need to call a nurse if you need to get up and go to the bathroom. We cannot afford for you to fall and hurt yourself. And I think my logic behind that was that they said, once you have a bowel movement, I told you I'm a TMI kind of person. If this is too much for you, it's probably not the channel for you, because that is not going to be the first time or the last time I get pretty graphic. So she's like, we're not going to release you until you've had a bowel movement, until you are peeing enough to our liking. So they had this little hat, I think they call it a hat, in my toilet. So they were measuring how much how much I was peeing. I know some people say that their pee smelt really bad. Mine didn't. It was really dark. It was almost brown, but it didn't have a smell to it or anything. I did not have to be cathetered. I was peeing on my own, but like I said, it did take a while. So I think I asked my surgeon how long I was actually in the surgery room. He said about 2.5 hours. So, mind you, my surgery started at 1, and I don't remember waking up from like recovery until about 4 or 4:30. And so I was out for like 2 hours extra after I got out of surgery. Apparently, I was still out. And so I had watched people's videos on YouTube, and they were talking about, how they can eat broth and sugar-free Jello and all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bring on the broth. I guess it didn't dawn on me that they meant like the next day they could have broth and stuff. And I'm expecting to have something for dinner because I'm like, okay, I woke up. I'm awake. It is 4:30 in the evening. I know that you guys have not served dinner yet. Where is my broth? My mouth was so dry. My lips were so dry. My whole face felt dry. And I couldn't do anything but lay there and think about broth all night long. And so so the next day, they came in and they were like, well, I think we're going to be releasing you today. I was super happy. I was like, before I get my broth? Like, what's up with that? I don't get broth before you guys kick me out? And it turns out breakfast came and it happened to be broth and some sugar-free Jello. So I took like a sip of the broth and I can't even describe it. Like, it was not... It was not painful so much, but it was just so awkward the way that it hit my stomach. It was so weird. And so, I tried the Jello, and the Jello was worse. I swear the Jello felt like I swallowed rocks. And it was a tiny, like the very tip of the spoon of Jello. And it felt like I had swallowed a handful of fucking boulders. That's what it felt like. And then it would hit this certain part of my stomach and I would have like this gag up, like a gag reflex. I wouldn't actually vomit, but I would get so sick to my stomach. And so, I didn't really eat that. Mind you, FYI, they do monitor what you eat in the hospitals. Just thought I'd put that out there. Because, dinner or lunch came, same thing. I could not eat anything. The Jello was hitting my stomach like rocks, and I couldn't do it. I was calling them in there. It felt like they were constantly putting that nausea medication in my IV, and I couldn't do it. And so finally, I got a visit from the doctor that night, or my surgeon that night, and I wasn't going to mention to him that I was not eating, which I really should have mentioned to him, but I was just so ready to go home at that point. And when they told me that they were releasing me, I was just super happy. And so, which was stupid on my part. Never, ever, ever hold back information from your surgeon because you want to go home. Because it could have gotten so much worse. But he just pretty much brought it up to me, and he's like, well, the nurses have told me that you haven't really been eating much. What's going on? So at that point, I did tell him, I told him, pretty much the Jello is hitting my stomach real funny, and it's making me sick, and He's like, well, you do know that I cannot release you to go home until you can keep something down. I can't send you home if you can't keep food down. So, he's like, I'm going to try something else, because sometimes what happens, and he's like, and it's actually not uncommon, sometimes what happens is bariatric patients, they cannot tolerate the clear liquid diet for more than 24 or 48 hours. And so he said, I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try to move you on to the full liquid diet. So tomorrow I am going to have them bringing you yogurt and protein shakes and see how you tolerate those. So breakfast came, and it was yogurt and protein shake, and it went down like a fucking charm. I had no problem whatsoever with the yogurt or the protein shake, for that matter. And so I was a happy camper. Then lunch came. Same. I had no problems. Turns out what was going on is I was having stomach spasms. And the clear liquids were irritating my stomach. And that's why I was feeling nauseous when it would hit a certain part of my stomach, because my stomach would spasm. So he said, as long as dinner came and went, and I could... Wait a minute, I skipped over something. That is not why I was in there for the first extra night. That first extra night, I was in there because my oxygen dropped. My oxygen level dropped to like 87. And they were trying to bring it back up. And so all night long, they had me on oxygen. They had the oxygen attached to my CPAP machine. And so that's why I was in there that first extra night. It was the second day that I could not keep down food. And that's why I ended up in there for the second extra night. And so then by the third day is when the doctor finally said he was releasing me to go home. So all in all, I was in the hospital for 3 extra days. But the night before, when I got dinner and it went down fine, I looked out the window of my hospital room, and sorry if you can hear people talking in the background. My mom just got home. Anyways, I looked out the window of my hospital room, and it was the most gorgeous view I have ever seen. I took a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and I was like, you know what? This view is so beautiful. It almost is worth the extra 3 days that I've spent in this place. But it was like, that was a sign to me. You know what I mean? Like, I could finally keep food down. I'm going home tomorrow, and I get to leave off with this gorgeous view. So, all in all, he ends up releasing me to go home the next day. He released me at about 3 o'clock in the evening, which was smack dab in the middle of rush hour traffic. So it took me more along the lines of 2 hours to get home. And this is 24 minutes. So, that will be for another video. And I will pick up where I left off and let you know what happened since I've been home. Okay, talk to you later.